Welcome to FPNN. My name is Asonele Kotu and we are in Cape Town discussing all things maternal health and newborn. Today I'm talking to Constance from Asijiki and we're talking about a critical topic that has been one of the discussion points in our session today in Cape Town, which is around the decriminalization of sex workers bill in South Africa. Constance, tell us about Asijiki and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me today. Asijiki is a coalition for the decriminalization of sex work in South Africa, which is formed over 131 members across the country, but we do have the global members, but we are more focused nationally. And we do have individual members, over 300 individual members across the country, across the world actually. Asijiki started this is 2015. The issue of the advocating for the decriminalization of sex work, it comes from a very long way. We are today 26 years old, advocating for the full decriminalization of sex work in South Africa. We started the long way. It started by SWET, the Sex Workers Education Advocates Task Force, and then on 2002 we formed the Sisonke, the movement of the sex workers run by the sex workers from themselves, and then on 2015 that's when we realized that the issue of the decriminalization of sex worker is not only about the sex workers, those who are in the industry. It also involves different organizations, different institutes, different movements. So we realized that there was a gap that was left. So to bring all the institutes, all the movements together. That's why we formed this beautiful umbrella.
Beautiful. So if I hear correctly, the act and the bill that is meant to be passed will help then South African sex workers not get criminalized for doing sex work. But if you look at where we are currently, we've got various kinds of sex workers. You get a sex worker that is on the side of the road, there's the online version, and then you have people that are in clubs that are also, so where does the criminalization part go in, and how does that affect sex workers doing their job? Because I would say it's a you feel it would be a discriminatory act, but what does it mean when you are found guilty of a crime for being a sex worker in South Africa?
Right. Currently now, as everybody knows, the sex worker industry has been criminalized, which means the whole industry is being criminalized. But there is some certain target people. Most of the time, the people that are being targeted are the street-based sex workers, who are the major people that they are targeted to be arrested. The issue of the decriminalization is a very old law. I always laugh because even me, I wasn't born by that time. It started from 1957. We are still living and existing under the laws of 1957, under the sexual offense of the Act of 1953 on Section 23. This law comes all along. The people who have been in the industry have died and come and go. But all the laws they have changed, all the bills they have renewed, but what happens to this one specifically? This is what is worrying us. The people in the industry that are more facing the big challenge and criminalized most of the times are the street-based, the sex workers. And 95% of the perpetrators in the industry are the police officers.
Wow.
Which are the people that's supposed to be protecting sex workers, but they are the perpetrators. Some police, yes, they are good police officers, but it's rare to find them in this. How bad they are, they rape the sex workers, they take advantage of the sex workers, they demand the sexual favors in exchange of the rape. And secondly, they take the bribe from the clients, but the sex worker is the one who have to suffer and go to the cells for the whole weekend.
So it becomes like a victimization strategy that they use against the sex workers. If you don't pay back in return with sex, we will take you to jail.
That's true.
Wow.
Yes. And then now they have the new system that they started since 2017 is entrapment. They use the money and come and trap you and trap the people. They trap the people in the brothel. They use that strategy for the brothel people, and they also use the entrapment online sex workers. And then you come to the difference of the sex workers. There is no difference of the sex workers. Whether you are a stripper, you are a sex worker. Because every stripper, they end up saying, we have happy ending. What do you mean about the happy ending? Here in South Africa, you have got umavuso. What do you mean about umavuso? Start thinking of your life, who you are if you have got 5 boyfriends. What are you offering to those 5 boyfriends? Just because one sex worker came out and say, I'm a sex worker, and then you judge here, but you don't see your problem here. Jumping to one family to another, sleeping with different men in exchange of something, that's sex work.
It's sex work.
Yes.
I mean, we see it on social media where people would post videos and sexual videos or videos exposing their bodies and would put a WhatsApp number. That is sex work.
That is sex
but
work.
It's hidden behind a fancy-looking kind of facade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back again in terms of porno. The porno movies are being exhibited in each and every social media. They say they are protecting underage. The children nowadays, they have access to the computers, they have access to the technology. They view these porno videos. So what makes the difference and hard for sex worker to be decriminalized? While it's in South Africa, globally, we can decriminalize the pornos. So this is what the people, they want to think, they have to think about. The major issue that we have been facing as a South African that is leading us behind is that they see the issue of the decriminalization of sex work as a moral issue, which is not a moral issue. This is a human rights issue.
Correct.
Sex workers, they have been deprived their human rights to practice and exercise their human rights. It's have nothing to do about me being a Christian, religious, Hindu, a Muslim, or a Jewish.
And nobody wakes up one day and say, today I'm going to be a sex worker.
No one.
We listened to stories today where women are forced, because of the circumstances that they come from, even poverty forces women, where you have these situations where we heard today where a person would say, I had to find a way to feed my children. So in a way, some people are not, they don't want to become sex workers, but it becomes the only solution for certain people. And I'm sure many sex workers at first did not want to become sex workers. And then you end up with a criminal record, which, how long does the criminal record stay on your name when you are found guilty of a crime of being a sex worker in South Africa?
Right, this is a major issue. That's why we decided to draft this bill and pass it in Parliament. And I'm so glad that the Department of Justice accepted the bill. The bill is to now review the criminal charges against the sex workers. Once you are a sex worker and you are being arrested and they profile you, when you profile you, now you have a criminal record. For you to clear that criminal record, it takes you up to 10 years to clear that criminal record. So if you are, remember the sex workers are target. If you are arrested 20 times or 50 times in your lifetime, and which means you have got up to 500 cases, 500 criminal records. So now let's just think if someone wants to exit the industry. You cannot exit the industry anymore. No one
Who's going to hire you? Exactly.
No one can employ you out there. Right. And then the other thing that we have been having the argument with regarding with these laws that are in place that criminalizes the industry is that only the sex worker is the only person that is a victim of a crime. That's all.
Not the purchaser, not the buyer.
And remember the law says that anyone who buy and sell and benefit from the sex worker is a criminal, but only sex worker. Right.
So how do the buyers get away then? If, let's say we get caught in the act, I'm a buyer, you're a seller, and then you get the crime, how do I get away from not being charged? Because I am also transacting with you, which means I should also get charged.
That's why I said the system fails us there. The police officers are the people that they collect the bribe from the buyer.
Okay.
Because they has the money. The money is the power. So the men always have the money and the power, and they get away with the crime. Then the lady, the family have to go to face the cell and face the charges inside the cells. Right. And then the other thing, when you look at the whole industry, let's just think, right, they said anyone who buy and sell and benefit from the sex trade is a criminal. Okay. There comes a sex worker after doing the business and go to ShopRite and purchase the grocery for the children. Does that make ShopRite a criminal?
Because they're benefiting from money from crime.
ShopRite is benefiting. All the staff there who are working, they are benefiting from that money. Does that make them the criminals? Right. You go and put petrol in your garage after the business. Does that make your engine garage a criminal? You go to the bank and you deposit your money for your savings. Does that make your Standard Bank a criminal? Right. Let's look at the taxi. Everyone in South Africa, if you purchase anywhere, you're being taxed. Where does the tax money goes? Does Ramaphosa become a criminal?
Because the tax money supports.
It pays the salaries.
Exactly.
Any MP who's a criminal, no one. So why a sex worker should suffer alone? That's why we call out the decriminalization of sex work.
So which department currently is sitting, and where is this bill? Is it being discussed in Parliament? Where are we with the process currently with regards to the passing of the bill in South Africa? And should it be passed, what does it mean for sex workers?
Honestly speaking, when the outbreak came out, when they call out the bill, it have gone for the public participation. It was on December last year, and the closing date, it was on the 31st of January. When it came out, it was like a movie. I can say so. It was like a movie. It's happening. The first country in Africa.
After 24 years of trying.
26.
26?
Yes,
wow.
26. And it's the first country in South Africa that accepted the bill, the sex worker bill in Parliament. So it was just amazing, a nightmare. But then when we look at the things, we saw that next year we are doing the vote as well. So it might be the people who upset the bill, they won't gonna be in Parliament again. The time frame is too short for us. But then it was such amazing. We did the submissions, all the allies, they come together and we did submissions, we pushed the submissions because the one thing that you should know about ASICHIGI, the coalition, it's an umbrella with a very big organizations. The South African leading organizations that you can think of are SANAKI and Section 27, Turkey, and Human Rights Watch, Amnesty Internationally, and COSATU, FEDUSA. So we are kind LGBTQI organization, Iranti. We are kind of being covered in the feminist world, in the LGBTQI world. So everyone did a submission. So it was quite amazing journey for us to have those submissions. But right now, when we have a chat with the minister, the DM, I had a chat with him in the last month, at the end of the month. He said the bill currently now they have done to review the submissions. It's in the process now in Parliament. The bill was going to the Forum of South African Directors General, and then from there it's going to go to the Development Committee, and then it's going along the side to the processes, which hopefully by September is going to be presented before the Cabinet. So once we pass in the Cabinet, that is a law.
Fantastic. And it becomes law in South Africa, and then when that happens, what does it mean? What victory does it mean for sex workers?
One, the children of the sex workers, that's why we are here today. We were talking about the children of the sex workers. The mothers who are sex workers, they're going to be free from all the crime. But we had some kind of discussion and question with the Minister of Social Development around the issue of the crimes that the charges that are still running in court. We are still deciding that should they can't drop them if they are in court. We need to follow the procedure. But I don't know how it's going to work in that aspect. I'm still waiting to hear how it's going to work. Or the court, if we say they must plead guilty, so if anyone plead guilty, which means everybody needs to be arrested who have any pending case in court. So it's a little bit challenging and tricky there. We are still coming up with the strategy how to handle those cases. But anyway, everybody is going to be happy, is going to be free, and once in a while, and their children, I think they will respect them in schools and whatsoever. But one thing for sure that I know is that decriminalization won't gonna bring a golden opportunity. But we just want sex workers to be protected and their occupation be recognized by the labor laws like any other occupation.
Correct.
Because we look at the LGBTQI in South Africa have been decriminalized, and what's happening? They're still facing the stigma and discrimination. But at least they can run to the police officers and open charges against them.
Get help.
Yes, and get help. With the sex workers, it's totally difficult. The reason issue that was raised against the trafficking, human trafficking, and underage children who are in the industry, the sex workers came out clear and said, we cannot report those cases. We are the people who work day and night. We know all the movements around. We know who are the traffickers, who know the underage children. But the reason we are criminalized, before you go to that police station, they ask you, what were you doing? I have to answer that I'm a sex worker. Once I say I'm a sex worker, I'm pleading.
You get arrested.
Yes, I'm pleading, I'm guilty.
And one of the pushbacks against the bill is that once sex work is decriminalized, then it might give opportunity for issues and challenges around exploitation of young children getting into sex work. So how do you respond to those things where people are saying, no, we cannot decriminalize because trafficking of young children, young people getting involved, and if it's a free-for-all, how do we then avoid getting into those situations, and how does the bill protect those instances from happening?
Right. The first thing that I want to highlight, even a stupid person, a domestic person we know in the world understand this, that the trafficking is totally separate issue from the sex workers. Anyone can be trafficked, an underage child can be trafficked. It has nothing to do with the sex work. What the law we are asking to change is the sex work law. We are not asking for the trafficking. So people need to understand and separate these issues. But one thing I know, us as ACG, as the coalition, we do not support the trafficking. So we are aware that after the decriminalization of sex worker, there will be separation of the laws. And the people, they will understand that trafficker needs to be appointed. Because the sex workers now, they don't have a fear. They've got way to run. Even if you know what is happening, there is a lot of mafians who are operating around here. We know sex workers have reported cases to us. We know the mafians and what's going on the ground. But they don't want to testify.
Because they will get in trouble.
Yes, because you still have to go to the same street and work tomorrow. The mafians, they will kill you. So what I believe that after the decriminalization, the sex workers will be able now to come forward and report the cases and tell us exactly where they're operating. And us will be taking to the relevant people, whether it's works, whether it's subs, wherever we need to take it. And that's why we're going to take the cases too. Even came across the underage children. Many sex workers, as you heard today, they are mothers. They do not support their children to be seen in the street because the danger of the work at this point of time. Maybe after decriminalization, there will be no dangers. They need to protect their children. But just because of the systems and the laws that are operating right now, that the sex worker industry should be criminalized, the sex workers have got fear to come forward and protect these children.
And you end up living underground because you cannot get out there and get the access to the type of help that you would get as a normal South African citizen.
Yes.
Interesting. Looks like there's a lot of education that we need around this topic.
Yeah.
And I must say, I've learned a lot from you because learning more about the decriminalization of sex workers and also the bill that's been proposed and unpacking that has educated me. And I think more people need to be educated because there's always the stigma and taboo around sex work, but we see it and we pretend as if we don't see it in front of us.
That's
so
true.
yeah, so I hope that the bill also touches on the educational element to say, let's accept people for who they are, what they want to do, and also to understand that sex work is really not an option for some people, but you get circumstances that will push you to that.
Yes.
And I am actually looking forward to what happens next. Oh, my last question was going to be, what happens if after the election we have a government change in South Africa? Does that mean you would have to start the process from the beginning if a new government comes into to be the ruling party of South Africa?
Honestly speaking, that is our biggest fear. I don't want to lie. We are aware, everybody is aware that the leading political party, they wrote the statement that they do support the decriminalization of sex work. If the government changes, we have got...
You start again from the...
We start again another 26 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
What happens to the sex workers? Remember the issue of the sex workers. They were just killed. The sex workers, they were killed in Joburg. How many bodies are we going to bury for another 26 years, like what we have done right now, up to this stage? So it's a little bit worrying and concern. So our fingers is to keep...
It's a matter of emergency. We just cannot wait. It is a matter of emergency.
Yes,
Thank you so much, Constance. It was so lovely hearing from you. We'll keep following the journey of what happens with the passing of the bill in South Africa. And thank you for sharing with us. And we wish you all the best. And thank you so much for being in the forefront and fighting on behalf of all the organizations that are part of ASIJiki. We hope that you guys win this battle and just get everything sorted and make sure that everybody has equal rights, because we all deserve equal rights. All right, that's all for the day. And as we wrap up for the day, we will talk again.